The bridge of the starship hummed with quiet energy. Commander Zaxel stood at the center, his 6 legs planted firmly on the metallic floor. His 4 arms moved in precise patterns as he studied the holographic displays floating before him. Earth spun slowly in the main viewer, a blue and green sphere that promised riches beyond measure. Such waste. Zaxel clicked, his mandibles moving with practiced ease. All these resources on a planet defended by creatures with no natural armor, no proper weapons. Lieutenant Kree approached, her purple skin shimmering under the ship's lights. Her antennae twitched as she spoke. "The final reports are ready, Commander. Our scouts confirm what we suspected." "Tell me," Zaxel said, turning his attention to his second-in-command. "The dominant species calls themselves humans. They have basic technology. Primitive spacecraft, simple nuclear weapons, basic computers, nothing that could threaten our shields." Zaxel's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "And their biology? Pathetic, sir." Kree pulled up a detailed scan of a human body. "Look at this. Soft skin that tears easily. No claws, blunt teeth. They can't even regrow lost limbs. Their young take years to mature and they die after less than a century." The commander made a sound of disgust. "How did such weak creatures become dominant?" "Unknown, sir. They seem to rely on tools for everything. Even their strongest warriors need weapons and armor to be effective." Zaxel moved to the viewing window, his reflection showing the proud bearing of a Valoran warrior. His species had conquered 17 systems, each victory easier than the last. Earth would be number 18. "What about their military strength?" he asked. "Divided, Commander. They fight among themselves constantly. Different nations, different leaders, no unified defense. Their largest weapons could perhaps damage our scout ships, but nothing more." "Perfect." Zaxel's mandibles spread, in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Begin preparations for invasion. I want our troops ready within the week." "Yes, Commander." Kree hesitated. "There is one thing." "What?" "Some of our long-range scans show humans living in extreme environments, frozen wastelands, burning deserts, even underwater. It's unusual for such a fragile species." Zaxel waved a dismissive arm. "Desperation, nothing more. When creatures have no natural defenses, they hide wherever they can. It changes nothing." The science officer, Vexnar, approached with a data tablet. His green scales reflected the light as he moved. "Commander, I must agree with Lieutenant Kree. We should study them more before—" "Enough!" Zaxel's voice echoed across the bridge. "We have studied them for 3 of their months. We know everything we need to know. They are weak, divided, and rich in resources. The perfect target." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "Think of it. Water so abundant they waste it. Metals they barely use. Fertile soil across entire continents. And defending it all? Soft pink creatures that need tools just to open their food containers." The crew laughed, a series of clicks and whistles that filled the bridge. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "our surveillance drones are picking up something unusual in the northern continent." "Define unusual," Zaxel said, moving to the console. "A group of humans in distress. They appear to be surrounded by a local predator. Put it on the main screen. Let's see how these dominant creatures handle a simple animal threat." The holographic display shifted, showing a mountain trail surrounded by tall trees. 4 humans, 2 adults and 2 smaller ones, stood frozen on the path. Before them, a massive brown creature rose on its hind legs, easily twice the size of the adult humans. "What is that beast?" Kree asked, leaning forward. "Local wildlife database identifies it as a grizzly bear," Vexnar reported. "Approximately 800 pounds. Natural weapons include claws and teeth designed for tearing flesh." Zaxel made a sound of satisfaction. "Watch carefully, everyone. See how the mighty humans run from a simple animal. This is why our invasion will succeed." But as they watched, something unexpected happened. Another human appeared on the trail, moving quickly toward the danger instead of away from it. "Commander," Kree said slowly, "that human, It's not running. Jake Turner wiped sweat from his forehead as he walked the familiar mountain trail. The morning sun filtered through the pine trees, creating patterns of light and shadow on the forest floor. His radio crackled occasionally with updates from other rangers, but mostly the forest was quiet. 10 years as a park ranger had taught Jake to listen to the forest. Every sound meant something. Birds suddenly going quiet, branches snapping in, the distance, the rustle of leaves that wasn't caused by wind. Today, something felt different. He checked his gear out of habit. Bear spray on his belt, first aid kit in his backpack, radio fully charged, knife secured in its sheath. Everything in its place, just like always. The scream shattered the forest's peace. Jake's training kicked in immediately. He started running toward the sound, his boots finding purchase on the rocky trail. More screams followed, high-pitched, terrified. Children. Above, invisible to human eyes, the alien observation drone followed Jake's movement. On the bridge of the ethereal blade, Commander Zaxel leaned forward with interest. This one moves toward danger, he noted. Unusual behavior for prey species. Perhaps it's a warrior caste, Lieutenant Kree suggested, though it carries minimal weapons. Jake rounded a bend in the trail and saw them. A family of 4 stood frozen in terror. The father had pushed his wife and 2 children behind him, but his shaking hands betrayed his fear. 20 feet away, a massive grizzly bear pawed at the ground, its small eyes fixed on the humans. "Don't move," Jake called out, keeping his voice calm but loud. "I'm a park ranger. I'm here to help." The bear turned its massive head toward Jake, evaluating this new arrival. 800 pounds of muscle and fur, standing 7 feet tall on all fours. Its brown coat rippled as it moved, claws as long as human fingers scraping against rock. "Sir," the mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please help us. We didn't see it until—" "It's okay," Jake interrupted, slowly moving between the family and the bear. "What are your names?" "Tom and Lisa Parker," the father managed. "Our kids are Emma and Josh." "Okay, Tom. When I tell you, I want you to back away slowly. Don't run. Don't turn around. Just walk backward." On the alien ship, Vexenar studied his scanners. The new human is positioning itself between the predator and the others. Protective behavior, but ultimately futile. That creature outweighs him by a factor of 5. "Watch how quickly natural selection works," Zaxel said with satisfaction. "This is why humans need tools and weapons. Without them, they're helpless." Jake kept his eyes locked on the bear. Years of training had taught him that most bears didn't want confrontation. They wanted easy food, not fights. But this one seemed agitated, probably surprised by the hikers on its territory. "Hey, bear," Jake said firmly, spreading his arms wide to look bigger. "Go on now. Get out of here." The bear huffed, a deep sound that made the ground seem to vibrate. It took a step forward. "Commander," Kree said, her antennae straight with attention. "The human isn't retreating. It's challenging the predator." Jake slowly reached for his bear spray. The bright red canister felt reassuringly solid in his hand. "Tom, start backing up now, slowly." The Parker family began their careful retreat, but the movement triggered the bear's predatory instinct. It dropped to all fours and charged. Everything happened in seconds. Jake stepped forward instead of back, finger on the bear spray trigger. The bear covered the distance between them with terrifying speed, muscles bunching and releasing under its thick fur. Jake waited until the bear was 10 feet away before pressing the trigger. A cloud of orange spray burst forth, capsaicin and other chemicals designed to overwhelm a bear's sensitive nose and eyes. The bear skidded to a stop, shaking its massive head. It sneezed violently, pawing at its face. But instead of retreating, it roared, a sound that echoed off the mountain walls and made the alien observers flinch. "Impossible," Vexenar muttered. "The human chose to face death rather than flee. This defies basic survival instinct." The bear, now enraged, rose on its hind legs again. 9 feet of angry predator towered over Jake, who stood his ground, empty bear spray can still in hand. The bear's roar shook pine needles from nearby trees. Jake stood his ground even as every instinct screamed at him to run. Behind him, the Parker family continued their slow retreat, Emma and Josh crying quietly as their parents guided them. "Backward, that's right," Jake said to the bear, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. "Focus on me. I'm the threat here." On the alien ship, confusion spread among the observers. Lieutenant Kree's antennae twisted in bewilderment. "Commander, the human's vital signs show extreme stress, yet it maintains position. This contradicts all known prey behavior. Perhaps their brain functions differently under threat," Vexnar suggested, frantically checking his readings. "Some form of malfunction?" Jake dropped the empty bear spray and slowly reached for his knife. Not to kill, he knew better than that. A 4-inch blade against 800 pounds of bear was like bringing a toothpick to a tank fight. But sometimes, the flash of metal could confuse a bear, make it reconsider. The grizzly dropped back to all fours, its massive head swaying side to side. Brown eyes studied Jake with an intelligence that always surprised people who didn't know bears. This was no mindless beast. This was a predator deciding if a fight was worth the energy. "Come on," Jake whispered. "You don't want this fight any more than I do." The bear charged again. Time seemed to slow down. Jake had maybe 2 seconds before impact. He couldn't outrun a grizzly. They could reach speeds of 35 miles per hour. He couldn't outclimb it either. His only option was to stand and fight. As the bear closed the distance, Jake did something that made the alien observers gasp. He charged forward to meet it. "Madness!" Zaxel exclaimed. "The human has lost all reason." At the last possible moment, Jake dove to the side. The bear's momentum carried it past him, claws raking the air where he'd been standing. Jake rolled and came up on one knee, knife extended. The bear wheeled around with surprising agility for its size. It swiped at Jake with a paw the size of a dinner plate. Jake ducked, feeling the wind of the strike pass over his head. He jabbed with the knife, not trying to wound but to establish boundaries. Statistical analysis indicates 0% survival. Probability, Vexnar reported, his voice shaking. Yet the human continues to engage. The fight became a deadly dance. Jake used every trick he'd learned in his years as a ranger. He made himself look bigger. He shouted and waved his arms. He struck the ground with a fallen branch to create noise. When the bear lunged, he dodged. When it swiped, he ducked. But bears don't tire easily, and Jake was only human. A massive paw caught him across the shoulder, sending him spinning to the ground. Pain exploded through his body as claws raked flesh. Blood immediately soaked through his uniform shirt. "Now it ends," Zaxel said with certainty. "No creature survives once wounded by a superior predator." But Jake didn't stay down. He pushed himself up, blood running down his arm, and faced the bear again. His left arm hung useless at his side, but his right still held the knife. "That all you got?" he growled at the bear, pain making his voice rough. The bear seemed almost surprised that its prey was still standing. It rose on its hind legs again, preparing for a final attack. Jake knew he had one chance. As the bear dropped down to charge, he grabbed a handful of dirt and small rocks with his wounded arm, ignoring the searing pain. When the bear lunged, he threw the debris directly into its face. The bear flinched, momentarily blinded. Jake used that split second to slam his knife handle against the bear's sensitive nose. Not a lethal blow, but bears' noses were incredibly sensitive. The grizzly bellowed in pain and surprise. It shook its massive head, backed up several steps, and then made a decision. This prey was too much trouble. With a final huff of displeasure, it turned and lumbered into the forest. Jake stood there, swaying slightly, blood dripping from his wounds, watching until the bear disappeared completely into the trees. On the bridge of the ethereal blade, complete silence reigned. Every alien present stared at the display in disbelief. Jake's legs shook as adrenaline flooded his system. Blood ran down his arm in steady streams, but he remained standing, watching the forest where the bear had vanished. Only when he was certain it was gone did he allow himself to feel the full extent of his injuries. 3 deep claw marks ran from his shoulder to his elbow. His uniform shirt hung in tatters, soaked with blood. His left arm throbbed with each heartbeat, and he could barely move his fingers, but he was alive. The Parker family approached cautiously. Tom Parker's face had gone pale. "Sir, you're hurt bad. We need to get you help." Jake nodded, suddenly feeling dizzy. He reached for his radio with his good hand. "Dispatch, this is Turner. Had a bear encounter on Trail 7. Need medical evacuation. 1 injured. That's me." "Copy that, Jake," came the worried response. "Helicopter en route. ETA 15 minutes. Lisa Parker was already pulling supplies from her backpack. "I'm a nurse," she said, tearing open antiseptic wipes. "Kids, look away." As Lisa cleaned and bandaged his wounds as best she could, Jake kept scanning the tree line. Bears sometimes circled back, especially if they felt their territory was threatened. Above them, the alien observation continued. Commander Zaxel had not moved since the bear retreated. His 6 eyes remained fixed on the display, trying to process what he'd witnessed. "Run full biological scans," he ordered finally. "There must be an explanation." Vexenar worked his controls frantically. "Scanning now, Commander. But initial readings show nothing unusual. Standard human physiology. No enhanced strength, no armor beneath the skin, no rapid healing factors." "Impossible," Kree whispered. "It fought a creature 5 times its mass and survived." "Not just survived," Zaxel corrected. "It won." The predator retreated. The sound of helicopter blades grew louder. Jake looked up to see the medical chopper approaching, its red cross visible against the blue sky. The Parker family helped him to a small clearing where the helicopter could land. "Why did you do it?" little Josh asked, looking up at Jake with wide eyes. "Why didn't you run away?" Jake managed to smile despite the pain. "Because that's my job, buddy, to keep people safe in these mountains." "But you could have died," Emma added, her voice small. "Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks," Jake replied. "Besides, that bear was just protecting its home. We surprised it. Once it realized we weren't easy prey, it left." On the ship, this conversation was being translated and analyzed. Zaxel turned to his science officer. "Did the human just express empathy for the predator that nearly killed it?" "It appears so, Commander," Vexnar confirmed. "It seems to understand the creature's motivations even after combat." The helicopter landed, and 2 paramedics jumped out with a stretcher. They worked quickly, checking Jake's vitals and starting an IV line. As they prepared to load him into the chopper, Tom Parker grabbed his good hand. "Thank you," Tom said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved our lives." "Just doing my job," Jake replied, wincing as they lifted the stretcher. "Next time, make noise when you hike. Let the bears know you're coming." As the helicopter lifted off, the alien ship followed at a distance. Inside, the command crew gathered around the display table, reviewing the footage again and again. "Look at this moment." Kree pointed to a freeze frame. "When the bear charges, the human's pupils dilate. Heart rate increases by 40%. Adrenaline spikes, all typical fear responses. Yet instead of triggering flight, it triggered fight." "But with what weapons?" Zaxel demanded. "It had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor, just a small blade and chemical spray." "Intelligence," Vexnar said quietly. "It used intelligence, predicted the bear's movements, exploited its weaknesses, employed tactical deception. And something else," Kree added. "When it threw dirt in the predator's eyes, that wasn't trained behavior. That was innovation under pressure." Zaxel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Pull up all data on human-predator encounters. I want to know if this was an anomaly or what, Commander?" Vexnar asked. "Or if we've fundamentally misunderstood what we're dealing with." The helicopter carrying Jake disappeared over the mountain ridge, leaving the aliens with more questions than answers. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and coffee. Jake lay in his bed, his arm wrapped in clean white bandages. 37 stitches held the deep gashes closed. Doctors said he was lucky. The bear's claws had missed major arteries by millimeters. "You're either the bravest or the craziest ranger I've ever met," Dr. Sarah Mills said, checking his chart. Fighting a grizzly with a pocket knife? That's not in any training manual. Jake shifted uncomfortably. Didn't have much choice. Family needed help. Most people would have run, she replied, adjusting his IV drip. That's the normal response to a charging bear. Running triggers their chase instinct. Besides, can't outrun a bear anyway. Dr. Mills shook her head. Still, you're lucky to be alive. High above Earth's atmosphere, the aliens were discovering that Jake's actions weren't as unusual as they'd thought. Commander Zaxel stood before a massive holographic display showing hundreds of similar incidents. This can't be right, he muttered, watching footage of a human woman fighting off a mountain lion to protect her children. Another clip showed a man wrestling an alligator that had grabbed his dog. Yet another depicted teenagers forming a circle to fend off a wolf pack. The data is accurate, Commander, Vexnar reported. Humans regularly engage in combat with predators many times their size, and not just for survival, sometimes to protect others, even other species. Lieutenant Cree pulled up another file. Look at this one. A human child, only 12 Earth years old, fought a bear that entered their dwelling. Used improvised weapons from their food preparation area. And survived? Zaxel asked incredulously. With minor injuries. The bear fled. Back in the hospital, Jake received visitors. The Parker family arrived with flowers and balloons. Emma and Josh had drawn pictures of him fighting the bear, depicting him as some kind of superhero. The news wants to interview you, Tom Parker said. You're being called a hero. Jake waved his good hand dismissively. Just did what anyone would do. No, Lisa Parker said firmly. Most people would have run. You stood your ground. On the alien ship, this conversation was being monitored and analyzed. Zaxel turned to his psychology expert. Why does the human deny its extraordinary actions? Cultural modesty, perhaps, the expert suggested. Or they don't consider such behavior exceptional, which is concerning. Vexnar interrupted with new data. Commander, I've completed a comprehensive analysis of human history. The results are disturbing. Show me. The display filled with information. Wars, explorations, survival stories. Humans had fought in every environment their planet offered. They'd crossed oceans on wooden boats, climbed the highest mountains, explored crushing ocean depths. They'd survived ice ages, plagues, and natural disasters that would have exterminated most species. They've been fighting everything, including each other, for their entire existence, Vexnar explained. Look at their sports. They jump from flying vehicles for entertainment. They climb vertical rock faces without safety equipment. They swim with predatory fish. For entertainment? Kree's antennae stood straight up in shock. They call it extreme sports, or adrenaline-seeking. They deliberately put themselves in danger. For fun. Zaxel studied a video of humans skydiving. They're insane. Or something else entirely, Vexnar countered. Their medical practices involve cutting into their own bodies to repair damage. They inject weakened diseases into their young to build immunity. They've split atoms and gone to their moon using primitive chemical rockets. In his hospital room, Jake was reading get-well cards from fellow rangers. One caught his attention. From Amy Chen, a ranger who'd been mauled by a cougar last year. She was back on duty now, scars and all. Bears are tough, her card read, but rangers are tougher. See you back on the trail soon. Jake smiled. The doctor said he'd need 6 weeks of recovery, but he was already planning his return to work. The mountains were waiting, and someone had to keep them safe. On the bridge of the ethereal blade, Commander Zaxel made a decision. Recall all invasion preparation teams. We need to completely reassess our strategy. Sir? Kree asked, surprised. These humans, they're not prey. They're not even normal predators. They're something we've never encountered before. What are they, Commander? Zaxel watched Jake on the monitor, already doing physical therapy exercises despite his injuries. I think they might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The research chamber aboard the ethereal blade buzzed with activity. Dozens of scientists from different departments crowded around holographic displays, each one showing different aspects of human civilization. Commander Zaxel had ordered a complete review of all Earth data, and the results were troubling. Environmental adaptation index is off our charts, reported a climate specialist. Humans live everywhere. Frozen poles where water turns solid, deserts where it never rains, jungles with deadly diseases. They don't just survive, they build cities. Vexnar nodded grimly. And look at their biological tolerance. They consume foods that would poison most species. Some even eat plants containing capsaicin, the same chemical in their bear deterrent. For pleasure, Lieutenant Cree pulled up medical data. Their healing is remarkable. That ranger we observed, similar injuries would take our soldiers months to recover from, if they survived at all. Humans return to full activity in weeks. Show me more about their risk-taking behavior, Zaxel ordered. The main screen filled with statistics. Millions of humans regularly engaged in activities with high mortality rates. Rock climbing, deep-sea diving, mountain hiking, cave exploration. They jumped out of functioning aircraft with fabric wings, raced vehicles at deadly speeds, and even paid money to be scared in haunted attractions. I don't understand, said Junior Officer Trixall. If they're intelligent enough for space travel, why do they seek danger? That's precisely what makes them dangerous, Zaxel replied. They're intelligent and fearless, a terrifying combination. Vexnar brought up historical records. Commander, it gets worse. Their entire evolution is based on persistence hunting. Early humans would chase prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. They're built for endurance, not just strength. And they're pack bonding, Cree added. Remember how that ranger risked his life for strangers? That's typical human behavior. They'll die protecting others, even other species. They keep carnivorous predators as pets and call them family. The room fell silent as images of humans cuddling with wolves, tigers, and bears appeared on screen. Creatures that would terrorize most civilized species were being treated like children by these strange bipeds. Their military capabilities? Zaxel asked quietly. The tactical officer, Commander Draxoon, stepped forward. Horrifying, sir. They've developed weapons that could crack planets. But more concerning is their small unit tactics. Human soldiers train in conditions we'd consider torture. Sleep deprivation, extreme temperatures, constant physical stress. And their special forces, he continued, undergo something called Hell Week, where they're pushed beyond all reasonable limits. The survivors become their elite warriors. Survivors? Cree asked. Some don't survive training? Correct. And the humans consider this acceptable. They have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Zaxel's mandibles clicked nervously. What about their space capabilities? Primitive but progressing rapidly, reported the technology expert. They reached their moon using computers less powerful than our food dispensers. They've sent probes beyond their solar system. Given their rate of advancement, they'll achieve interstellar travel within generations, Zaxel finished. The implications hung heavy in the air. Every species in the Galactic Council had achieved space travel through careful, methodical progress over millennia. Humans were doing it through sheer determination and willingness to risk everything. There's something else, Vexnar said hesitantly. They're fiction. Fiction? Stories they create for entertainment. Many involve them fighting and defeating vastly superior alien invasions. They imagine threats and practice defeating them. For fun. Zaxel slumped in his command chair. So they're already psychologically prepared for species like us. Worse, Commander, they seem to hope for it. Many humans express disappointment that they haven't encountered alien life yet. They want to meet us. Why? Trixall asked, confused. Cree brought up sociological data. Best we can determine? Curiosity. They want to meet other species just to see what we're like. They'd probably try to be friends first. And if we attacked? Zaxel asked. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. If humans could fight bears with pocket knives, what would they do with their actual weapons when protecting their entire species? Commander, Draxon said finally, I recommend we classify Earth as a Category 10 hazard world and establish a quarantine zone. For our protection, not theirs. The emergency council meeting had been called for all senior officers. Commander Zaxel stood at the head of the conference table, his 6 eyes scanning each member of his command staff. The usual confidence was gone from his bearing. "I've gathered you here because we need to make a critical decision about the Earth invasion," he began. "What we've discovered in the past few days changes everything." He activated the holographic display. Images of human achievements filled the air. Spacewalks, deep-sea exploration, Arctic expeditions. Each image showed humans thriving in environments that would kill most known species. "But Commander," spoke Admiral Kralvex, leader of the ground forces, "surely their primitive weapons can't match our technology." "That's what every invader in human history believed," Vexnar interrupted. "The data shows a clear pattern. Superior forces have repeatedly underestimated humans, only to face devastating defeats." The display changed to show historical battles. Small human forces defeating larger armies through guerrilla tactics, determination, and innovative thinking. Outnumbered defenders holding strategic positions against overwhelming odds. "They call it asymmetric warfare," Vexnar explained. "When faced with superior technology, they don't fight directly. They adapt, improvise, and exploit weaknesses no one else would consider." Lieutenant Kree brought up another set of data. "There's more. Humans bond with anything. They've domesticated predators, formed emotional attachments to machines, and even befriended species that once hunted them. If we invade, they won't just be defending themselves. They'll be defending everything they care about. Which appears to be everything," added the psychology officer. "They form emotional connections to places, animals, even inanimate objects. A human will fight to defend a tree they climbed as a child with the same ferocity they'd use to protect their offspring." Commander Zaxel displayed footage of human rescue operations, people risking death to save strangers from fires, floods, and collapsed buildings. Coast Guard crews battling hurricane winds to reach stranded boats. Mountain rescue teams scaling deadly peaks to retrieve injured climbers. "They do this voluntarily," he emphasized. "No one orders them. They choose to risk their lives for others, even those they don't know." "But their governments are divided," argued Admiral Kralvex. "They fight among themselves constantly. That's what makes them more dangerous," Zaxel countered. "They've been practicing warfare against the most dangerous opponent in their world, each other, for thousands of years. They've perfected the art of destruction and survival simultaneously." Vexnar pulled up biological data. "Their bodies are engineering marvels. They can survive blood loss that would kill us instantly. Their bones heal stronger after breaking. They have redundant systems for everything critical. One human survived a metal rod through his brain and returned to work a year later. They can also enter a state called hysterical strength," Kree added. "Under extreme stress, their bodies remove natural limiters. Parents have lifted vehicles, weighing tons to save trapped children. Humans have carried wounded comrades for miles while bleeding out themselves." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "There's something else," Zaxel said quietly. "Their entertainment." He showed clips of human movies and games, aliens invading Earth, apocalyptic scenarios, survival against impossible odds. Humans had imagined every possible threat and spent generations thinking about how to defeat them. "They practice destroying us in their free time," he said. "For fun." "So what do we do?" asked the Admiral. "We have 2 options," Zaxel replied. "We can proceed with the invasion and likely face the most costly war in our empire's history. Win or lose, we'll pay a terrible price, or, prompted Kree. "Or we mark Earth as off-limits and hope they never develop faster than light travel. Because if they do, and they decide to explore the galaxy with the same determination they show on their world." He didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. A species that fought bears with pocket knives, jumped from space for entertainment, and bonded with their predators wouldn't be contained by something as simple as galactic borders. "I vote for quarantine," Vexnar said immediately. One by one, the other officers agreed. Even Admiral Kralvex, veteran of a dozen successful invasions, nodded reluctantly. "Then it's decided," Zaxel concluded. Earth is to be designated a Class X death world. All ships are to maintain minimum safe distance, and may the gods help us if they ever leave their planet. 3 weeks later, Jake Turner sat on his porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and purple. His arm was still in a sling, but the doctors said he was healing faster than expected. Typical human resilience, they joked. His phone buzzed with a message from the Parker family. They'd sent another photo of Emma and Josh now wearing Junior Ranger badges and carrying bear bells on their backpacks. The message read, "Learning to hike safely, thanks to you." Jake smiled. He had no idea that his actions had been observed by beings from beyond the stars, or that he'd single-handedly prevented an alien invasion. To him, it was just another day at work. High above, the ethereal blade prepared for departure. Commander Zaxel stood on the observation deck, taking one last look at the blue planet below. The evacuation of all surveillance equipment was complete. Earth would be left alone, its inhabitants unaware of how close they'd come to interstellar war. "Final preparations complete, Commander," Lieutenant Cree reported. "The warning beacon is in place." The beacon would broadcast a simple message to any ship that approached Earth. Class X Death World. Extreme caution advised, indigenous species highly dangerous. Quarantine in effect. "Sir," Vexnar approached with a data tablet. "I've completed the final report for the Galactic Council." Zaxel read through it carefully. The report detailed everything they'd learned about humans, their inexplicable courage, their bizarre tendency to seek out danger, their pack bonding with anything that moved, and many things that didn't, and most importantly, their terrifying adaptability. "You've included the bear incident?" he asked. "Yes, sir. It's listed as the primary example of why invasion would be catastrophic. If their civilians can face death with such determination, their military would be unstoppable," Zaxel finished. "Good. Let the Council understand what we discovered here." As the ship powered up its engines, preparing to leave Earth's orbit, Junior Officer Trixall asked one final question. "Commander, do you think they'll ever know we were here?" Zaxel considered this. "Perhaps. They're curious creatures. Always exploring, always pushing boundaries. One day they'll reach the stars." "And then?" Cree asked nervously. "Then the galaxy will meet the most remarkable species we've ever encountered. Let's hope they come in peace." The ethereal blade engaged its faster-than-light drive and vanished from Earth's sky, leaving behind only a small beacon and a wealth of data about the planet's unusual inhabitants. Back on Earth, Jake received clearance to return to light duty. He celebrated by taking a gentle hike on his favorite trail. As he walked, he noticed fresh bear tracks in the mud. Instead of fear, he felt respect. The bear was just being a bear, living its life in the mountains they both called home. His radio crackled to life. "Jake, we've got reports of hikers stuck on Eagle Point. Think you're up for it?" Jake tested his arm, still sore but functional. "On my way." He had no idea that light years away, an entire alien civilization was rewriting their invasion protocols because of him. He didn't know that military academies across the galaxy would study his bear encounter as a prime example of human unpredictability and determination. All Jake knew was that someone needed help, and he had a job to do. The Galactic Council accepted Commander Zaxel's report with shocked silence. Earth was officially designated as off-limits, with a permanent research station established at a safe distance to monitor human progress. Years later, when humans finally developed faster-than-light travel and made first contact with alien species, they were puzzled by the mixture of fear and awe they encountered. Why did advanced civilizations seem so nervous around them? The answer lay in the archives of the Velaran Empire in a file marked Critical Incident Earth Observation Mission. The report began with a simple sentence. Invasion cancellation. See attached footage of human-designated Park Ranger Jake Turner engaging in single combat with local apex predator. And so it was that Jake Turner, who never knew he was humanity's savior, continued his work in the mountains. He fought fires, rescued hikers, and yes, occasionally faced down bears. To him it was just another day in the park. To the rest of the galaxy he was the reason Earth remained free.